everybody, JC here with another TNI news video. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's hop right into it. So first thing, I want to touch on a story I talked about last week with the SH Figuarts Dark Knight Joker figure. This week we got more images for that figure and official details. So this figure is going to come with 3 different head sculpts. You're going to get a grinning head sculpt, a normal head sculpt, and then a smirking head sculpt. And I still don't really think that any of these head sculpts look that much like Heath Ledger, the actor who played him in the movie. I definitely think the NECA version did a better job in that regard. Now this figure is going to have a number of accessories. He's going to have a machine gun, a rocket launcher, a playing card, and multiple pairs of hands. And that figure is going to be released in September. Also, while we're on the subject of Batman movies, Mediacom this week announced that they're going to be releasing a new Dark Knight Rises Catwoman figure. This is an updated version of the previous figure that they released, which I don't actually own, so I'm not sure what the differences are between the two figures. I'm guessing maybe either more articulation or more detail, but they are listing it as an upgrade to that previous figure. And this figure is going to have 2 different head sculpts, a masked head sculpt and an unmasked head sculpt. And I do have to admit that the unmasked one looks much like Anne Hathaway, the actress who played her in the movie. Now, I don't know if the final version will look that good, but based on these images, I think they did a good job with that. And then the figure is also going to have a number of other accessories like a pistol and a batarang and Batman's mask. And 2 versions of those night vision goggles that you see her wear in the movie will be included with the figure as well. And that one will see release in December. Moving on to Storm Collectibles, this week they released new images for their 1/12 scale Mortal Kombat reptile figure. We first saw this figure at Toy Fair back in February. I do think the new images make the figure look a bit better than what we saw at Toy Fair. I wasn't terribly impressed with the reptile head sculpt with the one we saw at Toy Fair, but I do like the one that we are seeing in these new images. Also, I like the tongue feature. You can stick a extended tongue in the mouth there to replicate one of his moves, and you also get an acid effect, which is done with green translucent plastic. The figure itself is basically just a repaint of the Sub-Zero and Scorpion figures that we previously got, which were good figures, so, and it makes sense that they would just repaint that green, the green colors for Reptile. So no complaints there. That figure will see release in September. NECA this week released images for their first Alien Covenant figure, based on the upcoming movie, and we got a look at the Xenomorph figure, which honestly looks very much like previous Xenomorphs that we've seen, but I do like the paint detail, at least based on this images, and the semi-translucent skull that looks like it has. Now that figure will be released this summer, and there'll be other figures in the assortment which have not yet been announced. NECA also released an image for one of their, I think the movie's pronounced Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. Now I don't know much about this movie. I know it's a sci-fi type movie, but other than that I really don't know much about it. But they released images for this K-Tron figure, and even though I don't know much about the movie, I do have to admit that this figure looks pretty cool. Now the rest of the assortment for this movie will be revealed in mid-May, so we'll get a look at the other figures in this assortment in a couple weeks. Super 7 this week, they made an announcement saying that they will be shipping out their Masters of the Universe Ultimate figures, and those should start hitting mailboxes by June 31st. So if you pre-ordered those, expect those at the end of June. They also announced that they're going to start taking pre-orders for the wave of classic Masters of the Universe figures that they showed at Toy Fair. They'll start taking pre-orders for those on May 5th, so next week. Hasbro revealed a new Transformer movie figure, a new masterpiece, MPM-4 Optimus Prime. So we got official images for this figure. This figure will cost $99.99 and will be available this summer. But this is based on Optimus Prime as he appeared in the very first Transformers movie. It's said to include die-cast parts, so that's pretty good. Basically, the figure was made in conjunction with both Hasbro and Takara Tomy. And the figures, you can transform him obviously into his robot mode and then into his truck mode. And he's going to come with a Matrix of Leadership accessory and then obviously his weapon as well. Moving on to Marvel, updating another story I talked about last week, Tomasi Nations released official images and information for their new SH Figuarts Guardians of the Galaxy Star-Lord figure. Also, they're going to be releasing separately from Star-Lord a Rocket, Raccoon, and Kid Groot figure. So originally we thought that these were going to be released all together, but it's going to be Star-Lord and then Rocket with Groot. So 2 different releases with that. The Star-Lord figure, which the head sculpt looks very good. The unmasked one looks very much like Chris Pratt. And that's going to have, obviously, the 2 different head sculpts, the masked one and the unmasked, and then his signature blasters and multiple pairs of hands. So that one's going to be released in September. And there's going to be a US release version that's going to have these purple blast effects that you see in some of these images. Not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that that is a US release exclusive like we've been seeing with the previous Marvel SH Figuarts. And that version of Star-Lord is actually up for pre-order now at Big Bad Toy Store. I'll put a link in the video description below for that. And then for Rocket, Rocket is said to stand 3.14 inches tall. He's going to have 3 different head sculpts. He's going to have a neutral expression head sculpt. He's going to have a yelling expression head sculpt. And then he's going to have a smiling one. And then it looks like he's also going to have multiple pairs of hands. And one of those pairs looks like have some pistols sculpted in the actual hands. So I don't think the pistols are actually removable from the hands. But with those little tiny hands and everything, that's probably a good thing so that those don't fall out. And then he's also going to come with 2 different versions of Groot. The Groot figure is going to stand 0.05 inches tall, and you're going to get a neutral Groot with no clothes on, and then you're going to get one where he's wearing the Ravager's outfit, that red jumpsuit. And there's going to be 2 different head sculpts with the regular Groot, and then there's going to be a separate head sculpt with the dressed one. And I'm guessing that all 3 head sculpts are interchangeable, so I'm guessing you can mix and match, but I don't know that 100% sure. Also, it looks like the Groot figures have this little cube stand. It is unclear whether that's actually attached to the figure that you can't remove, or if it's something that you can actually take off of the figure. But definitely it looks like you'll need that to keep the figure standing. And I believe the Rocket, Raccoon, and Groot figure will also see release in September. And then NECA also this week released images for their 1/4 scale Homecoming SpiderMan figure, the 18-inch one. They had announced it at Toy Fair, but we didn't actually get to see it. So now they've released images. Now these aren't final images, so it could change. But it said that it's going to have a textured suit, over 30 points of articulation, and then he's going to have multiple pairs of hands and multiple eye lenses. And that is going to be released in September. So on the Marvel Legends front, you're probably well aware by now that the Spider-Man Homecoming wave with the Vulture Build-A-Wing has started to hit places like Amazon. Now, if you missed it on Amazon, you should start seeing them in stores as early as maybe this weekend, but by May 1st or thereabouts. So either this weekend or next week, I would expect that stores will start putting those out on shelves. Basically, the embargo date for those is May 1st. And then places online like Big Bad Toy Store, they will have them up for pre-order and likely will be in stock on June 1st. So if you want to just wait and get them online, that's when you should expect to see them there. Also, the Toys R Us exclusive Spider-Man Mary Jane 6-inch 2-pack has started to show up on shelves in Singapore. These images come from Jan Says Meow, and I probably totally butchered his name, but he managed to score this set there in Singapore, and I would expect to see this set hitting shelves here in the United States in the next few weeks. Definitely should see them by June. And then finally, I wanted to touch upon one other story I talked about last week in regards to the Diamond Select Toys Netflix Daredevil figure. I had told you that it didn't look like it was going to have the unmasked Matt Murdock head that we saw at Toy Fair, and I was able to get that confirmed by Zach Oat at Diamond Select Toys. He confirmed it for me, so at least the regular release version of the figure will not include that unmasked head. I don't know if there'll be another, variant version released sometime down the road, but I do know that this regular version will not have that unmasked head, unfortunately. Okay, so let's move on to the Q&A. I picked out a few questions from last week's news video. If you've got a question that you would like me to read on air and answer or try and answer, please ask it in the video description below and I'll try and get to it next week. But for this week, I've got Archangel Rutherford, hope I pronounced that correctly, and he asks, have you heard anything about the SH Figuarts General Grievous? So if you're asking if there is a General Grievous SH Figuarts, yes, there was one shown at a convention overseas back in 2015, I think, but I've not heard anything recently about it, so I don't know 100% that it's still coming. I would assume it will be eventually, but there's been no word on an actual release date or anything, and it's been some time, so it's one of those that's kind of fallen off into limbo. But I would expect eventually they will release it. They did announce this week that they're going to be releasing a General Grievous model kit, so those are a little bit cheaper and you actually have to, put them together and stuff. But if you're into those model kits, and I've heard they're pretty detailed, there is a 6-inch version of General Grievous coming with that. Randy Pasco asks, can you help me figure out if I'm crazy about something? I remember I saw last year that either SH Figuarts or Diamond Select were going to make Back to the Future action figures. So I'm not going to say you're crazy, but I'm not aware of either company doing action figures for Back to the Future, at least, normal action figures. So SH Figuarts, I did some research, and it looks like there has been something about them doing a floating DeLorean. I don't have any specific details, but like if you do a search on YouTube, you'll find somebody posted a video, looks like from a convention or something of it. But again, I don't have any specific details on that. But no action figures from them. I've never heard anything about them doing action figures for Back to the Future. As far as Diamond Select toys go, they do mini-mates, but not like, 7-inch scale action figures. And they've not announced anything for that either. The only company I know of doing actual action figures of any type is Hot Toys, which obviously is the 1/6 scale 12-inch figures, but they're the only ones I know of at this point who are doing Back to the Future action figures of any kind. So again, I wouldn't say you're crazy, but probably maybe misremembering something or just saw a rumor or something, but nothing concrete that I know of anyway. Okay, so next question, Chris Redfield asked, do you know anything about the Batman Rebirth figure from Mattel? So I do. It was shown at Toy Fair back in February, and as of today, Big Bad Toy Store put up for pre-order the wave with this figure. It's the 6th wave. It comes with the Collect and Connect Gotham City PD mech bat suit. And so that wave is up for pre-order now, and I believe they have it listed with a June release date. So if you want to just pre-order that figure, you can go over there now and do that. And I'll put a link in the video description below for that. And then final question comes from Master Luke, who asks, do you think Mezco would ever get the license to make Star Wars figures? And the answer is no, I don't. I actually briefly talked to them at Toy Fair about Star Wars, and they made no indication that was anything on their radar. I also tend to think that Hasbro probably has too much of a tight grip on the license here in the United States to allow any other company to make 6-inch or 3 3/4-inch scale figures. So I really just don't think that's something that would happen in the near future, at least. I'll never say never, so years down the road maybe, who knows. But right now I would say not. Also, you've got Disney that makes their figures, which are kind of similar to, with those Elite figures. They're a larger scale, but, with the cloth outfits and everything. So they're a little bit similar to that. So again, I just don't think that's something that's ever going to happen, at least not anytime in the near or semi-near future. All right, so that's it for this week. Like I said before, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, please ask it or type it in the comment section below, and I'll try and get to it next week for next week's news video. As always, let me know what you guys think about everything we talked about this week. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. And if you're so inclined, please like the video. And you can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I'll have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I will catch you later.